Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Welcome back to Chatz, a television podcast, special non-season. The season outside of the season out at the edges of known space. TrekChatz. I'm here with my my chief medical officer, Alan.
Hello.
I'm the chief.
Boating officer.
The chief boating officer.
Riker's like, excuse me?
Yikes. And I'm Magellan, and we're Chatz, a television podcast, and usually we watch cult classic TV shows, a few episodes at a time, parcel them out, really savor them. But when it comes to Star Trek, particularly Star Trek The Next Generation, particularly Star Trek The Next Generation Season 4, episodes 1 through 26, we like to feast. And feast we did, and feast we shall in this discussion of that season of television. Alan, are you excited?
I'm thrilled. This is, if you don't know, also a first-time Trek Watch podcast.
Yes.
We've never seen most of these episodes. We've seen the first one before. Back on our Patreon when we got ready to pilot Deep Space Nine, we had to watch both halves of Best of Both Worlds. I actually watched another episode previously, but we'll talk about that. Otherwise, we're brand new. We're brand spanking new Trekkies, new to the world of the Enterprise and Picard and Worf and Deanna Troi and all the pals. So yeah, I'm really excited. This is like widely considered the best season of TNG. So, do we think it is?
We'll tell you if we thought the same. We did.
We absolutely did.
Yeah. How have you been the last 3 months since we talked about season 3?
Oh, I'm good. I think it's always fun to talk about like where those 3 months went, because now it's December. So since September, I was watching season 3 on a plane, mostly on a plane ride to and from San Francisco. My first time going to the West Coast, and then literally as soon as I got back from that trip, I moved. So life has been pretty hectic, and I distinctly remember watching season 3 like amongst unopened boxes of furniture because I was trying to rush to finish it at the end. So this season was met with a lot of like some hard stops because of moving and other busyness. But yeah, I had a really great time watching it. I was able to still dole it out over about 4 days, I think. Mainly because of the Christmas holiday. I had a lot of time at my parents to just like watch Star Trek. And that was really nice. I've gotten better at doling them out, kind of. I still feel like I can do better at that. But it's a self-imposed goal. But otherwise, yeah, I'm good. I've moved. I'm like, honestly, man, moving has made certain storylines in TV shows and movies resonate with me so much more than they used to. I'm sure you can imagine, like, stories about independence and like devotion to family and stuff. I'm like, that's me on the TV screen. So I'd say that fully answers your question of how I've been in these past 3 months. What about you?
Pretty good. The school year started in that time. I guess it had started by the time we did season 3, but we really started getting down to business. And that was stressful. The first semester has been kind of tough for me, but hey, we're here and I've got high hopes about 2023. Feeling good about it.
Yeah.
And it was nice to watch Star Trek during this kind of downtime, this holiday season, I suppose you could say. We're used to watching Star Trek pilots at this time, but a whole season? My goodness, I felt spoiled. Absolutely spoiled. I watched several of these in the car driving back from our hometown with my girlfriend, and that was really nice.
Absolutely.
Watched them the last couple of days off work. That was really nice. So, yeah, I think it's been good, I guess.
I watched a lot of them while building this Lego set that I got for Christmas, which is like a big Formula One car. It's like easily the most complicated Lego set I've ever received. It's third party, so it's like they took a bunch of real Lego parts and reassembled them into something else. And I'm like barely a third of the way through it, but I watched like 10 episodes while doing that. So season 4 of TNG is the one that I built in my dining room while building Legos mostly. And then I finished while I was deadly sick the past 2 days. So we'll talk about that. Okay. A couple orders of business. I'm glad you liked the season. Well, actually, no. Let's start.
I'm not glad you liked the season.
Yeah, I'm not glad at all. No, hold on. Stop that. How'd you feel about season 4 of TNG?
Oh my God. I was texting you about this. Like, when did this show become a good show? Look, okay, hold on, everybody.
Hold on.
Relax. I've always enjoyed Star Trek as we've been watching it. I've always been a fan. But my goodness, suddenly, all of a sudden, these episodes are quality, consistent quality. Yes. And, you know, you can make the case that there are great episodes in the past 3 seasons, but what you cannot make the case for is that those seasons were consistent. I don't think they were. No. I think season 4 I think that consistency has been improving over time, as has been evidenced by our tier list, of which we will do another one in this episode. But I think we're going to find ourselves with quite a few S's, A's, and B's, SABs, as I say, on our hands in this one, because it was good. And there was a pretty consistent bar of like what a TNG episode should look and feel like. And I may not be the hugest fan of the Best of Both Worlds as like an episode unto itself, but you can't debate the fact that 2-parter fundamentally shifted the themes that TNG is focused on. And I feel like that event clarified this show in a way that it really needed. And you can tie almost every single episode of season 4, even if the vast majority of them don't directly talk about the Borg or what happened, you know, in that event. Nearly every one of these episodes in one way or another is about processing that event and the themes that spun out of it, which is pretty cool. So I think that this season also not only has a consistency, but has a cohesion that has not been present in TNG prior to this point. And I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, it's so consistent, like you said, and also, and more than any other season so far, it rewards you for having watched and paid attention to previous seasons, like seeing the woman from Ryza again, and the continuation of the Klingon Civil War plot. You know, my roommate doesn't usually watch with me, but he watched the end of season 3 with me and was like, wow, the Klingon Civil War seems interesting. And then today he happened to come back during Redemption, and he was like, wow, it's like I just paused and resumed on this plot line. I was like, wow, you missed a whole season of like cooking this plot, but you got the like spoils of it, which is wild. Like that's a whole season ago that we're resuming that storyline and adding like really meaningful layers to it. And it's not just that, they added layers and referenced things that happened that we thought were like kind of stupid or kind of just like silly one-off. So the show is starting to feel very full and very this is part of a whole, you know. It's rewarding you for having watched and like appreciated TNG so far. So I loved it. I do think it starts to ebb in quality a little bit at the end.
Yeah, for sure.
Undoubtedly, a little bit of that is the rush to finish it and like, come on. But you can't deny that some of those later episodes feel like season 3 and maybe even season 2 ones. But the first like more than half of season 4 is just like a banger after banger. Yeah. I'm wondering if you could play my captain's log this episode for us, please. Oh,
sure. I would love to.
Captain's log, December 29th, 2022. I'm pretty sick if you can't tell from my voice, so I'm resisting a lot of coughing right now, but yeah, there was a virus on the ship or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm here with a full brain of thoughts about TNG Season 4, and I wanted to give you folks a few talking points and ideas to help guide your discussion. So, 3 big questions. Alan, are you listening? Good. Yes.
Really?
No, wait.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, what number am I about to say? 78.
The Redemption.
Okay, great job.
Yes!
Wait, another one. What number am I going to say? 32. 6.
I
got you. Yeah. I got you that time.
Damn it!
Number 2. Magellan,
I got really
I have to
confused about
ask,
who
how many
was
episodes
who.
this season do your notes just say, yeah, I kind of fell asleep during this one, but I'm catching up now? Because if we hit over 10, then you get a huge prize. So there's a punch card and everything.
My notes are
And number
very
3, I just want to
detailed
bring
this
up some
season.
recurring
Okay.
themes. I'm sure y'all will talk about these as well, but just for
But there was,
reference,
like 1 or 2 episodes.
control of your own
Good.
body, like bodily autonomy, was a big one this season. The frailty and beauty of humanity. Grief. We love talking about grief. Loyalty to family.
Family.
Everything going on
Yes.
with families. Episodes being about something in addition to being about something. And of course,
Yeah.
Keiko O'Brien. Good
Yeah!
luck, Alan out. I love that guy. It's such a friendly presence on the podcast.
I'd rather talk about Caked Up O'Brien, because my goodness, he's...
Keiko.
Never mind.
Cole Meany's really good looking. We're going to see him for literally years.
I can't wait. I love that guy. What a great...
I do want to talk about Keiko, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. We'll get there.
My last thing before we dive into the actual episodes is I solicited the Chatz Discord, which you can get access to by subscribing to our Patreon, patreon.com/chatspod. Or if you just ask us nicely on any of our social media platforms, which we'll plug at the end, we'll give you access. I asked people, hey, do you have any questions about TNG Season 4 long before we record?
Okay.
We got 3 quick hits,
Great.
if you don't mind. So, question 1 is from Martian in a Green Drazi's Body, a.k.a. Nick, friend of the podcast. He says, rank the following sci-fi in order of preference. Star Trek The Next Generation, so far. Babylon 5. Farscape. And Frasier. So number 1 is Frasier.
What was the criteria in order of preference?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Frasier number 1, of course.
For me, 2 is Farscape.
Okay.
3 is Babylon 5. 4 is The Next Generation so far. It's basically reverse order to what he gave us.
Yeah. This is tough for me because it's been so long since we've seen Farscape that I can't help but worry that I'm seeing it through rose-tinted glasses. But boy, that show's fun.
So
fun.
fun.
What a delightful experience Farscape is, and I cannot wait to experience it again.
Same.
I'm confident that Babylon 5 is as good, if not better, than I remember it.
Yeah. I mean the
TNG,
arcs, dude.
Yeah. Like if you were to compare the first 4 seasons of TNG to the 4 seasons of Farscape wins that.
Yeah.
Handily.
Big
I think Farscape gets to the level of consistency and cohesion that we're starting to see here in like season 2.
Right.
Like,
Much faster.
way faster, and also way bolder choices with a lot of things. I mean, it has the benefit of coming after TNG and being like, well, let's mix this up a little bit and riff on it. So it's not an entirely fair matchup, but I think I'm going to agree with you on the order there. The 2 asterisks being, it's been a while since I've seen Farscape, and TNG has 3 more seasons to change our
Continue to
minds.
impress. Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I'm at.
And you still want Frasier up top?
Frasier up top. Yeah.
My man,
Yeah, yeah.
my man. It's good
Yeah,
sci-fi.
it's weird that they do so many off the ship episodes.
Yeah, it's mostly away team.
It's mostly just away team stuff.
They keep using this coffee house set for some reason, but
Yeah,
it's
they
sci-fi,
keep
whatever.
bringing the dog,
Yeah.
which is weird because he needs to be up in the med bay. But anyway,
Our second question is a more serious one. It comes from another friend of the podcast, Ryan Slowinski from the Spit and Polish podcast and
What's up,
Yum
Ryan?
Yum Pod. Hi, Ryan.
Mhm.
This one's mostly for you, actually. So, a recurring issue of television for Magellan that's been referenced on the podcast from the start is being able to invest emotionally to a story about a guest star or one-off character. And I'm curious how the 4th season of TNG did when it comes to this problem. One of the strengths of the 4th season for me is how successfully it pulls the viewer into the drama of the one-offs or minor players, with heavy hitters like Picard's family, Worf's old flame, Miles O'Brien, the real Dr. Leah Brahms, Reginald Barclay, and the most important being of all the characters in Half a Life, which is one of the saddest episodes of the show, and in part because you feel for the characters so much. So, do you feel like the side characters this season have like invested you and made you care about them?
Yeah, I was gonna comment on that, or that was a running theme that was in my mind. So it's interesting to see Ryan talk about that. because I do think it is quite a task to try to get you to care about a character that you know is going to be gone by the end of the episode, but there are many examples in season 4 of them doing that pretty effectively. And I think the reason that it works is because in pretty much all of those, they are very closely knitting that one-off character to a character that we already know, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like season 4 is successful in ways that previous TNG seasons weren't as successful, because previous TNG seasons are kind of just interested in like the philosophical abstraction of a character or a concept. The kind of the worst or most boring episodes, I think, of TNG fall into that trap.
Yeah.
But I think there are a lot of great one-off character episodes that, taking Half a Life as an example, the reason that one's so good is because of Luoxana Troy being there and being like, which, by the way, did you have that on your bingo card that we were going to get like a moving, dramatic Luoxana episode?
Absolutely not.
But that's what I would say is I agree with Ryan that season 4 does that really well. And I think they've found the trick to it, which I'm excited to see them continue to do as the show goes on.
Yeah, attach it to people we know, which makes episodes like First Contact so fascinating, because they don't do that. They do the opposite of that, and yet it's still a really fascinating episode just about people and archetypes that we're familiar with, but not our cast and crew, at least for the first like 15 minutes. So we'll talk about that in relationship to your point, but I agree that most of the side characters work this season because they are tied to people we know and love and care about already. That's like specifically why I think they work.
Yeah.
Our last question is again for you. Well, I know the answer, so I'm going to ask it to you. This is from Pat, friend of the podcast. How many ears does Captain Picard have, Magellan?
Is it ears?
Yeah, how many ears does Captain Picard have?
Is there like a gag?
Yes. Probably 2.
I'll say 3.
Okay, yeah, that's correct. Because he has 1 left, he has 1 right, and of course he has the final front ear.
Okie dokie.
Okay, Pat, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Final front ear.
See you later, Pat. Bye.
Okay, let's talk about Star Trek.
Let's do it. Okay, so we're going to take the approach that we've taken in previous seasons here on TrekChatz, which is we will tier list the episodes as we talk through them one by one. So the tiers are S, A, B, C, D, F, and bad but actually good. I don't know if we'll have any of those this season. I don't think we did last season. Feels like a category of the past, maybe at this point. But
I think if we can attempt to limit ourselves to 4 to 5 minutes per episode, we can keep this under 3 hours, but it's also once every 3 months. So if we have a lot to say about certain episodes, I'm not thinking about a timer whatsoever. Let's have fun with it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with an episode that we've discussed prior to this point. Again, like you said before, on our Patreon when we piloted DS9, we watched both halves of Best of Both Worlds, and we start the season here with Best of Both Worlds Part 2. Do you have new thoughts or takes on this episode after having seen it now for the second time?
I think Best of Both Worlds Part 1, I remember being slightly disappointed on the rewatch because I was like, yeah, the Locutus stuff is fine, but whatever. A lot of the emotional meat of it, though, comes in Part 2. I really appreciate, Riker specifically saying that the whole reason that Locutus is a difficult foe is that they're not fighting the Borg. They're literally fighting Picard and his combat experience. So they're fighting the person who gives them directions, which is like, that thought is the meat of the first 2 acts of this episode. Right. And there's a little bit of humanizing Locutus in this that I really love. That was my special shout out. Like when he's on the Enterprise medbay, like they're disassembling him or whatever. And his comment isn't like, you're all going to die. It's like, you guys literally, you cannot beat me. It's it's unfortunate, but you get this sense of like almost regret. Like you guys are just going to lose because I know more than you do and you're not good at this. Really good villain shit to say. Right. But ultimately, yeah, the Riker stuff, him stepping up. I think you wrote in your notes that you wish they stuck with that status quo just a tiny bit longer. And I agree. I would have liked Captain Riker just for another episode or two to see how he handles it.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I think in a different show, we do like this. This is the thing about the Best of Both Worlds Part 2. And the reason I think that Part 1 falls so flat is we have this metatextual knowledge that like Patrick Stewart is Jean-Luc Picard. He is the face and leader of TNG. And that makes it almost impossible for me to retrieve the feeling of watching this live when it came out. Because at that time, it's television. Television can be unpredictable. You don't know if this is going to be the last season of a show. You don't know if somebody's going to quit a show or if they're going to do something different or recast it or who knows. Like anything could have happened. And I can respect how Part 1, that moment of fire could have been like, whoa, holy shit, let's talk about this all summer. And then you come into this one and they're like, we're actually not firing. And you're like, okay, cool. And so it also makes moments in this episode feel a little silly when Locutus of Borg is in on the Enterprise and he's talking to Worf and it's in this wide shot where he's like, we're going to beat up the Klingons too. And Worf's like, no, you're not.
No,
it almost
don't.
felt like a sitcom. Like here's Picard swinging around. Because you know that at the end of the episode, they're going to take all the bits off of him and he's going to be Picard again. Which like, I think what season 4 demonstrates is there are pros and cons to having a more episodic approach to major events like this.
Yeah.
The con is obviously like in 10 episodes from now, we're just back to doing other stuff. And we're not really dealing with the fact that Picard was spearheading like a massive military campaign against humans and ended up being instrumental in killing many people. We deal with that in the next episode, which is great, and we'll talk about that. But the pro is that you can kind of like shake off the practical logistical realities of an event like this and say like, we're going to just play with the themes of it, but we're not going to get bogged down in the like particular plotting of it. Because in another show, like a more modern sci-fi show, and this is what my note was getting at that you mentioned, you'd probably see Picard be a Borg guy
for like an episode or two.
Yeah, for like a mini arc. It would be a little bit longer. And we'd spend a lot more time in the aftermath thinking about like, well, what was that like? And you have, you know, PTSD from it and people are doubting like, are you still a Borg? And TNG kind of like doesn't fully do that. And I have mixed feelings about that because I think that could be a really interesting status quo, but I think it could also get really tired.
Yes.
So I have mixed feelings about this episode just because it's like, I'm a big episode. Bye. See you later.
Done.
Yeah. So
I think it's one that was overhyped for us a bit. That's my problem.
I think so. And I think part of it is like, if we had seen it when it aired, as was the case for some of the people who hyped it for us, I think we would have felt that hype.
Yeah, of course.
But, you know, it's hard to retrieve.
I think high B, low A for me for Best of Both Worlds. Maybe low A.
Yeah, I think it's just so instrumental to the theming of the season that we gotta give it the A.
Yeah, it's made better by the fact that it matters.
Yeah, but I would... I could rattle off like 10 episodes at least that I liked more than that one.
Right.
But we'll give it an A just because it's a consequential episode.
Episodes I liked more than Best of Both Worlds Part 2 also include Family.
Yes.
So this is another one I actually watched when we did the DS9 prep. And I think that this one actually doesn't work as well if you don't really know Picard and like why he is the way he is and why he feels, you know, at work, he's really confident. He's really headstrong and he makes good decisions and people praise him for his good work. And then to just put that dude home in the countryside of France and have his family be like, who the fuck do you think you are? What you're nothing. We're out here working And you and
Right.
your foofy starship, you're pretending that you're helping the universe. People don't even need your help. This is actually another episode or the first episode that really was enhanced for me having moved out, because like Robert, his brother, being like, you can't think you're better than me just because you have like the uniform, just because you have the like the clout or whatever, doesn't mean in any way that you're a better person. So that stuff really worked for me this time. And again, like knowing Picard, I went from like, this is actually not as good as people say, to like, this is better than people say it is on the rewatch. And it's got good B and C plots too, or at least decent B and C plots. Yeah. What did you think of it?
So I want to start first of all by shouting out Arthur, friend of the pod and a friend of mine in real life, good friend of mine, who watched this episode and the last episode of the season with me. And this was the first one I watched. This was the first one I watched on this watch, and then I rewatched Best of Both Worlds. So shout out to Arthur for bookending the season with me.
Yes.
And watching this one. It was really, really cool to share this episode with him. It's one of his favorites.
Yeah.
For good reason, I think. The characterful stuff here is incredible. And I think it, like Best of Both Worlds, establishes a thematic framework for the season. Like family, put very simply, is a core theme and concern of season 4.
Yeah.
At least half of the episodes deal with characters navigating familiar relationships or proxies for familial relationships, or, various ways that you could slice that. And so this is also like a core, incredibly important episode for the season. My big issue is like, why the fuck is Patrick Stewart French? Like, why?
Yeah.
He's so British. I mean, maybe he has some French heritage as a guy, but like, why are we living this lie that, Data, my name is Jean-Luc Picard. I'm from the French countryside.
And me and all my
makes
family
wine."
are
It's
British.
yeah. It's just one of those, the cognitive dissonance for me was really tough, and a little silly, but once I could get past that, it obviously is an incredible episode.
Yeah. Shout out to briefly the B and C plots, Guinan talking to Worf's parents and being like, hey, your son works really hard and he loves you guys. Yeah. Even though he has to create some distance. Because you're both human and that's difficult for him. Also, I think his dad is Ivanova's dad from Babylon 5. I might be wrong. I might be wrong. Someone correct me. And then the Wesley plot where Beverly gets a recording from her late husband. Wes finds it and opens it in the holodeck, and it's this like really touching little video that his dad made for him right when he was born, being like, here's who I am when I was born. I tried my best. I'm going to keep trying my best. And the part that got me was like, I'm already apologizing in advance because I'm not there enough because I work too much. And it's like, fuck. That's not even the reason he's not there anymore. But actually, yes, because he worked so much, he died. So it was a little bit like easy heartstrings for me, but I think it mostly worked. It's just a little cheesy.
Yeah.
And then the other line that I was like, wow, this is really affecting. And this comes back, by the way, is Robert gives Picard a nice old bottle of wine. And the line he says is, try not to drink it alone. Which is like something I want to say to people when I give them alcohol. That's like a nice thing to say. That because it's a little bit cheeky in the way your sibling would be. But also like, I know that sometimes when you're not feeling good, you resort to this. And I encourage you to think about that. He's like, a really nice thing that your sibling can say to you.
Right.
So for me, this is an S tier episode.
Easily.
Yeah.
Also, the Worf family stuff in this is pretty fun.
Yeah.
With his like Earth parents.
Yes, I think that stuff ends up working really well because we get more of Worf's identity, right?
Yeah.
So that's an S for sure. Speaking of family, we're not done talking about family yet. The next episode's brothers. Even though this episode doesn't start by being about Data, I immediately pegged it as being a Data lore episode. I already knew. The framing device of this young boy nearly led to his younger brother dying because he scared him into running away, thinking he got killed. And when he ran away, he went to the woods and he ate poison fruit and almost died. And you're like, Jesus, that's like a really sad, traumatic thing for like a 6-year-old to handle.
Yeah.
And people being like, hey, Johnny, like, your brother might die and you need to accept that. He's like resisting it in the way that a kid would realistically. Like, no, it's not my fault. Like, I can't accept that, etc. I love that.
Yeah.
But then as this episode extends, Data is pulled towards Dr. Noonien Sung's abode and brings the ship there. And we get some brilliant 3-way acting between Brent Spiner, and Brent Spiner as he plays Data, Lore, and Noonien Sung completely differently.
Oh my god.
It's a sight to behold, dude. Like, you're like, I know even when Data and Lore look identical. And Noonien Sung looks like Brent Spiner, but only barely. Like, the makeup is heavy. To the point where I wasn't sure, and then I heard it in the voice. I was like, I think that's Brent Spiner.
Same. I could tell from the voice.
And the horror of Data getting an emotion chip because his dad doctor is like, I'm gonna put this emotion chip in you because I finally perfected it and you deserve to have it. And like then Lore stopping that whole thing and killing his dad, and it worked pretty well for me. Mostly on the back of Brent Spiner as an actor, which is like what I'm gonna say about half of these episodes coming up.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, this one what it introduces that I really like is this thing that season 4 does of having a kind of like thematically related inciting event or scene that is either a side plot or it's just kind of there and then it's gone with the brothers thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a cute bookend where at the end Data's like, well, why are they so cool with each other? And Beverly says, they're brothers, Data. Brothers forgive. And he gives a little look of like, huh? Should I?
Lore killed your dad.
But yeah, I don't know. This one ended up not being the most interesting to me. And this is you were making fun of me at the beginning for like which ones did I fall asleep during?
Yeah.
It was this one. I was in the car and I was kind of like, ugh.
Yeah, it's not it's only important for the sake of Noonien Sung. You finally get to see him and then he's gone. So Lore's still out there. Which
I didn't really need to see him. Like he kind of was working fine for me as a mysterious guy that I'm never going to see. So it's entertaining. I think it fits within the season. Not my favorite episode ever. Yeah.
It's a high B for me.
Sure, we'll give it a B.
Okay. I don't think right now, call me out later if I'm wrong, I don't think we're going to get lower than a B this season. We'll see. I'm shooting my shot.
It's not going to be this one, Suddenly Human.
No.
This one was...
So I talked about in my captain's log about how episodes of TNG season 4 are about something, but they're also quote unquote about something. So like, and by that what I mean is, on the surface, the A plot is Picard is learning how to raise a son, like, and learning to take care of this guy, but also Picard is like understanding what fatherhood and familial affection is with this kid who's like,
right,
you know, custody with his race is like really difficult, and the kid is annoying, and he has this like yell, and it's very realistic of him to be yelling, and Picard's like, why do you keep doing that? And he's like, because nobody lets me fucking do it. Like, I'm mourning my friends and family who died, and you guys keep telling me not to stop yelling, so I'm gonna yell more. Like, I really liked that whole moment. And just like watching Picard crumble under the simple task of raising a child gave me like, you know, coming of age story vibes almost.
Yeah.
It's fine though.
You weren't a big fan of this one?
It's got its ups and downs. I like the performance of the boy, but the rest of it I don't find super memorable. Oh, Hollow Racquetball. That's my favorite part of this episode.
Yeah, Hollow Racquetball's awesome.
That's fair.
Yeah. When Picard puts on his little getup and then reaches the boy's soul, you know, that was a whole thing. Yeah. I think what I really enjoy about this one is something else that feels like a ramification of Best of Both Worlds is this ends with Picard saying, "You know what? I'm wrong on this one. You go home."
Yeah.
And that's not to say that that's not something he's ever done, because there are definitely previous examples of Picard saying like, "You know what? You're right." But I think we see quite a few instances of it in season 4 of Picard acknowledging, I came into this with a particular set of goals that may not have been the best set of goals, or like I'm fallible and I need to try to keep track of that. And that felt pretty cool to me. To see that, like, what the big lesson that he learns about fatherhood here is like, when it's time to let go and let the child make their own decision, which is a thing that the guy, the alien dad guy, I can't remember his name. But that's something that he is like willing to do from the jump. Endar, and Picard learns that from him, which I think is pretty cool.
I haven't been mentioning fan or production reception much because I didn't check the wiki for every single episode, but I know, just to catch us up, Family was very much disliked by Gene Roddenberry, the episode Family, because, quote, there's like no sci-fi stuff in it. And he was like, why the fuck would Picard have family issues? Isn't he like post-family issues? And we've said it over and over again, but Gene Roddenberry doesn't understand the point of his own show.
Gene, stop it. What are you talking about?
What did you want your show to be about, dude? Jerry Taylor is basically the main writer on this season, and she's like a lot of the reason they brought the big like empathy, love stuff. That's one of her specialties. And then for this one, there was like controversy about the episode condoning child abuse in the 90s, because the kid talks about like they break his bones sometimes to like discipline him. I think it's portrayed as bad, and also like when they say broken bones, they don't mean like he was hurt like by people doing it on purpose. He was actually just like a kid playing outside and hurt himself. So there's just occasionally parts where I'm like, the takes from like when the episode aired are really weird, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's definitely some stuff with like parental abuse that this episode gestures towards and then tries to undo that feel a little strange. Like you're saying, because I think they have actually a pretty good conversation between Deanna and Beverly and Jean-Luc, where they're like, is there abuse happening here? Like, how do we figure that out? What do we do? How do we keep this kid safe? That I think is like pretty well written. But then, and they just set up all this stuff of like, abusers have ways of like manipulating, the person when they're in the room with them. So make sure that the kid isn't by himself. But then we kind of just accept Endar's explanation of, he's playing around, which doesn't like fully resolve it for me. So I don't know. I think that stuff is like a pretty valid critique of the episode that you kind of have to weigh when you're assessing it. Because I think it presents those themes responsibly, but then doesn't resolve them particularly responsibly. And that feels messy. But anyway, I thought overall it was a pretty good episode.
You talking A or B here?
I think B is fine.
Okay. It's a high
B.
B.
Feels fair. Cool. So now we're into Remember Me.
Yeah.
This episode is awesome.
Yes.
It's so good. Oh my God.
Speaking of about something and about something.
Yeah.
It's about Beverly Crusher being alone in a pocket universe. It is about gaslighting, anxiety, loneliness, depression, and how scary it can feel when you don't have support and when people don't want to listen to you. Even though what I do like about this episode, and I talked about this in the Discord, is like the best thing about TNG now is that everyone's a real family. Like within the crew, we are found family. So they don't spend the whole episode being like, oh, Crusher, we don't believe you. Crusher, you're lying. It's like, no, they like mostly believe her. It's just a matter of she can't hear that, and she can't get out on her own for a while because she's in this pocket dimension created by the Traveler. Yes, the Traveler from season 1.
Right.
I can't shout out enough the best line of this episode. She asks the computer, here's a question you shouldn't be able to answer. What is the nature of the universe? And it says, the universe is a spheroid approximately 780 meters in diameter. And you're like, fuck. Oh, boy. She's in a box. She's in a fishbowl, basically. It's intense.
Yeah.
Very intense. I liked it, though. Gates McFadden, give me more. Amazing episode for Gates to just like perform and be by herself and question herself, but also be confident that she's right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also really cool. Metatextually, it's really cool for Gates McFadden because she has this amazing monologue when a lot of the crew members have disappeared, and she's talking about like how like unreal it feels for somebody to be there and be so important and be the heart of something and then to be gone.
Yeah.
Which kind of feels like her getting the chance to say like, wasn't it fucked up when I got fired
left
for a season and like I'm back now? And I was like, yes,
It
yes,
was.
Gates, tell him. Oh my gosh. That was just such a cool kind of like setting things right moment that I really liked. And yeah, I think the episode does a good job of reflecting on loss and the ways that we need each other and rely each other. And I think it also, what I appreciated is it does this twist of, oh, well, actually, Beverly is stuck without damselifying her. Like she still has to figure it out and get herself out of it and work with her son to fix the problem. And that's a tricky needle to thread, but I think that they do that pretty well. Yeah, I love the line, if there's nothing wrong with me, there must be something wrong with the universe.
More people need to say stuff like that
awesome.
on show. It's super good.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. S tier episode, dude.
I think so, yeah.
That's Remember Me in a nutshell. In a conch shell. Do you want to talk about legacy? Legacy. What is a legacy?
This was an interesting one. We'll talk more about Tasha Yar later. But
yeah, we will.
Let's talk a little about Tasha Yar now. Another moment of like, let's kind of set the metatextual stuff right by thinking about the ramifications of Tasha Yar being dead on her family. So
and
we're
her home
bringing
planet.
in grief. We're bringing in family. We're bringing in these season 4 themes. We're talking about Tasha Yar. We're seeing what the deal is on her planet. And I thought this was a pretty capable episode. It's not necessarily my favorite from the season, but
No.
I think they do an interesting job of, okay, here's Tasha Yar's sister, here's the complicated relationship that Ishara has with Tasha and the legacy of her, and kind of what would it have looked like if Tasha had taken a different path and not joined Starfleet. And that's, interesting. I think it's like a intriguing thought experiment. And this is an instance of one of those like one-off character episodes, but we anchor her to Tasha and we also anchor her to Data and use this as a way to kind of process Data's relationship with Tasha and missing her. And I really liked how sorry, go ahead.
A lot of the episode is about people missing Tasha Yar and wishing that this worked like that. Like when Ishara says, I'm going to join the Enterprise, everyone quickly says, I guess, yeah, because they want Tasha Yar back, but she's not her.
Right. Yeah. And what's, I think, really interesting in that regard is not only is that a kind of a grief story that's widely applicable to all the characters, but it's also a way to humanize Data a little bit, because the episode starts with everybody playing poker and Will Riker basically saying like, I can't bluff you anymore. He tries to do a little magic trick to Data, and Data's like, I saw you palm the thing and nice try, buddy, give me my money. but Data totally falls for Ishara bluffing him and fooling him because he has a soft spot for Tasha, and that's something that, despite the fact that he is an artificial intelligence, he's an android, he still has sentimentality, which I think is an important moment of character development for him.
Yeah, it's the first of many episodes about Data being like, can I love? And if so, what does that look like? And they start to explore before we learn that she's lying. This episode is like how in Star Wars Episode 4, they just say the word Clone Wars, and they made 7 seasons out of a show that. And in Season 1 of TNG, they said rape gangs.
Oh,
and
golly.
In Season 4 of TNG, they were like, okay, so here's the thing with the rape gangs. It's like, oh my god. We didn't need that part of it. The factions and the rebels and all that stuff was kind of dumb. So I liked everything on Enterprise, but I didn't like the Ishara planet. So they remind me of Farscape almost. I don't know why.
It did, yeah, it did. It was also just kind of lazy that it's like there's the Alliance and the Coalition. Come on.
Yeah. Do better.
Kind of lame.
Is this a B tier for us?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Slap it in there. Slap, like, and subscribe.
I was going to say that.
I know you were. That's why I said it.
Slap, like, and subscribe.
We're now going to talk about Reunion.
7, Reunion.
The next chapter of the Worf storyline.
Lots of Worf in this season.
Tons of Worf. Love every minute of it. Can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
Give me a Worf show.
Lots of Data, lots of Worf.
Yeah.
In
and then eventually lots of Geordi. Fine at the end.
Eventually. The whole season I was like, where's the Geordi? And then they give me like 3 Geordi episodes in a row.
I wrote here TNG is in this really great spot where I can get excited to see people like Kalar again because we know them, we cared enough about them, and them coming back matters. It's not just like a guest star being like, look, I'm back. It's like Kalar comes back and she's like, you have a son with me. This is him. His name's Alexander. And Worf's like, Jesus. Shit. And then the political wheeling and dealing, the Duras Gowron stuff is starting to cook. Picard is trying to help him out. We get some great Klingon stuff at the end. The last like 15 minutes is all action stuff and like speeches. Yeah, it's everything I like about a mid-season Worf episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this episode does a few great things, bringing in like different threads of Worf's backstory and tying them together, because she was in a different episode than like the home planet honor stuff, right? Those are totally different.
Pretty sure,
previous episodes. And this episode does a great job of weaving them together because okay, Worf, he's dishonored. Okay, we're mentioning that in other episodes, but we know that like he and his brother have plans to do something about that sometime in the future. And so it doesn't feel like a huge consequence. But when you introduce Worf's son and you have this plot where now suddenly his discommendation impacts his ability to marry this woman that he loves, to claim his son, and to have this familial life that presumably he wants to have. I thought that was a really compelling tension for Worf to have to navigate. And I was talking to Arthur when we were watching the last episode of the season, which is also Worf-centric, and talking about what we like about Worf, which is that he always makes these really strongly principled choices that are just like not the right choices. They just fuck everything up.
Right. That's not the end of the season goes.
Yeah, he just makes things so messy because he really wants to do things the right way.
Yeah.
And if he had just told her what happened, then she wouldn't have investigated it herself and gotten killed.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, where you watch this guy hold on to convictions that you respect, make choices that you're like, I see why you're doing that, but stop it. And then they get him in bad situations and you're like, Worf. And that's just great. That's what you want from a TV show character. Somebody who's just going to fuck it up over and over again, but who you, at the end of the day, like fundamentally care about and believe in and want to see the best for them. So this episode is great.
Yeah. Directed by Jonathan Frakes, by the way.
Nice work.
We have another cast directed episode later on that we'll talk about. But yeah, I love this. The last couple minutes where Alexander is like, "Are you my dad?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then he's like, "You have to leave. I'm never going to see you for like at least a really long time." I am definitely your dad. It's like, oh, you could have lied and protected him, but you chose to be honest, and I really respect that.
Yeah, I teared up when they hugged at the end.
Same.
It is a little TV convenient that he's like, "I'm your dad. Anyway, you're going to go live with my parents that we introduced in the first episode of the season, and we're not going to see you for a while."
We're not going to see it
like,
until like a late DS9 or something.
Right.
I don't know if that's true, but I'm guessing.
There also was a lot of production stuff notes just around like they over the course of the show they have to like rapidly age up his son. For like I was reading. So first of all, Worf and his mate
Alexander. Oh, Kalar?
Kayla, is that it?
Kalar.
Kalar. Oh my god, the spelling is not what I expected.
No,
it to
it's
be.
not. It's like...
Worf and Kalar had sex in season 1. Is that right?
No.
2?
I think so.
It has not been long enough for this kid to be like walking and talking and running around and being in kindergarten or whatever. But we're doing that because it's like story-wise what we need to do. And then they're going to continue to accelerate. And they explain like Klingons, they grow up faster. But I was reading, when you have a child actor, they can only be on set for a certain amount of time. And it takes 3 hours to put the Klingon makeup on to begin with. Right. So you get the kid out of the makeup chair and it's like, all right, we got you for like 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Okay, now you got to go. So that's going to be kind of a weird thing to track as we see Alexander again. But I think it's a great, great additional thing for Worf to be dealing with. And I appreciate the show investing in Worf and like bringing together the pieces of his story to make it all fit together. Yeah,
making a big picture, a cohesive plot. So I think this is another S. I think it's not a question.
Yeah,
maybe IA. Okay, good. A famous episode that I had seen part of but not watched again. Future Imperfect.
Because you saw the trombone part?
Yes, exactly. Or maybe I saw a later trombone part, but I've definitely seen Riker play the trombone. That's where the episode starts. And then the episode does yet another, check off your boxes at home. It's about something, but it's about something else storyline. Because Riker gets put into a coma for 16 years, I believe it is, or for several years, and wakes up, and the power balance on the Enterprise has changed, and he's now captain of the Enterprise. And Picard is working as an ambassador with the Romulans, I believe. And everything's different. Everything's a little fucked up.
Yeah, so the way that it's initially explained to Riker is he gets exposed to some kind of alien virus that sits dormant in his body. Yeah. And it's not that he's in a coma for 16 years. It's that it hits him 16 years later and erases 16 years worth of memories. And he's in a coma for like a week or so 16 years later, which is an amazing, interesting sci-fi premise, a really cool way to throw us into the future. That's not actually what's going on here.
Exactly. And then there's 4 more twists that all change what that is.
A bunch of stupid twists. I was totally content for this to be like a slice of life future story with Riker. And at the end of it, he gets his memories back. And then we pop back to the Enterprise and they're like, that was weird. Well, I guess it was nothing. But we know that 16 years later, it's going to be a thing. But I can see why they didn't box themselves into that, because they want to be able to tell stories and not have to think about, does this match with Future Imperfect, whatever.
Right.
But yeah, Riker is in this scenario where they are brokering a peace with the Romulans, and the kind of key bargaining chip that they're giving up in that negotiation is the location of an outpost that the Federation has. We learn that this is all an elaborate holodeck ruse constructed by our beloved friend Andreas Katsoulis, who's back. Thank God.
Yes.
Oh my God, this beautiful, beautiful man. to trick Riker into revealing the location of that outpost.
And then they total recall it because Riker notices that there's like a really bad lag on everything, on the computer, on people, on everything he does. And he's like, what's going on? Why can't you guys answer my questions? Oh, is it because you don't know? Because Picard would know the answer to this question. And what we realize is that the kid who's been playing his son this entire time and being like, oh, Dad, I'll show you the hologram of your wife who died. You can see her. Isn't she beautiful? I'm so happy to be your dad. To be your son. You can finally teach me all this stuff. And then when Riker realizes that even that's a ruse, we pop out and the kid made a hologram scenario where Riker thinks he's in a hologram scenario from Tomalak. But he's actually just on this kid's hologram projector. It's not even a holo deck. And he's like, I was really lonely and I wanted a father figure.
Yeah.
What? A little messy.
It's so messy. It starts so cool. Riker in the future, and he's like raising this son, and like, oh, I was in a coma for a while. He's having this conversation with Deanna Troi where like they didn't end up together, and you're like, whoa, they didn't end up together? That's fascinating. And then it's like, the Romulans, just kidding, I'm a little gray, man. Take me up to your ship, please.
So
Bye-bye.
weird. Not even a boy. Or a boy, but not a human.
Super weird. It could have been, for like a solid 25 minutes, it was like my favorite episode of TNG ever.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay.
Well, because it's like, they also established that it's Riker's birthday at the top of the episode. So you're like, oh, this is an episode about waking up one day and going, like, Road to Nowhere by the Talking Heads. You're like, this is not the career path I wanted. This is not the people I thought I'd be spending time with. Like, where did all that time go? That's literally what's happening here. And then it's like, well, just kidding. There was a kid who wanted a daddy, so he decided to make you his daddy. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it brings it down to a B for me.
I think that's the problem, is it loses the thematic core by the end of it.
Yes, 100%.
And makes it about proxy for family relationships in a way that doesn't work, really.
Also, the way that Riker knows that the kid is lying is that his wife is Minuet. Because he's like, I found a woman that matters a lot to you in life. And he's like, fuck, she's not real, dude. He's like, what do you mean she's not real? He's like, she's not real. But
yeah, I love Andreas Katsoulis as the Romulan guy. Is like, but you're like super horny for her. Like, what are you talking about? She has to be real. No, she was a computer program that I hung out with one time. So, ha ha ha, joke's on you.
Pretty good. B tier because of the bad ending.
Yeah, I agree.
But everything else is awesome. Let's be quick about Final Mission. This is the final appearance of Wesley Crusher in the series, at least, unless he does like a guest appearance later. This is his last regular.
Yeah, this is his last one as a regular. Yeah, I believe. And
it's his final mission test with Starfleet. They have to go on this desert planet, and retrieve something. Him and Picard. They do a little bit of like emotional hand wringing to get you to like, oh, he's always seen Picard as a father figure, and you're like, has he?
Right.
And they have this drunk third guy that's with them. I actually spent the whole time thinking that this was going to be like the game, and that they were all like, that was the test, Wes. But instead, it was symbolically the final test. Like, not somebody didn't orchestrate this, which I really appreciated. And this is a better send off than Tasha Yar got. That's what the production note said, was like, if we're going to take characters off the show from now on, we want to do it better than Tasha Yar. And this was definitely better, but not great.
Yeah, I just checked. Wesley shows up twice more in season 5, twice in season 7, and in one of the movies.
Great.
And he's also in an episode of Star Trek Picard.
I want to watch Picard when we're done.
Will Wheaton.
I'm gonna watch the movies when we're done, and then I'm gonna watch Picard. I know everyone's like, please, for the love of God, don't watch Picard, but you can't stop me. So sorry.
Yeah. The thought that I had watching this one, I think the desert stuff and the guy that they're with, it's like, okay, whatever. This is not that interesting to me. The scene where Wesley is confiding in Picard and talking about the things that he's wanted for himself was really moving. But like you're saying, they really try to force in there this thing of like, I did it all for you, Picard. I wanted your approval. And it's like, you could have done that. That was the arc that you established in the pilot episode of the show when Picard met Wesley and was like, I don't really like kids. Right. Oh, but I knew your dad. I want to have sex with your mom or marry her or be her best friend or whatever our relationship is. So like, yeah, I'll be your dad. They could have done that, but they didn't do that. That wasn't the thing. Wesley had all these other, I think good role model relationships with Geordi or with Riker at times. But like, yeah, they're trying to cash a check that isn't there, really.
Right. Yeah.
Which feels weird. But I do think it's like a really nice send off for Wesley, which I appreciated.
Agreed.
And now I really don't get why people don't like Wesley, because like
he's not even in a show for that long.
That was it. You're bugged. I guess, on a rewatch, I could imagine going back and watching season 1 again and being like, oh, these bad episodes are not good, but whatever. And the Traveler's here.
Oh.
That's something.
Wait, the Traveler in this one? I thought the Traveler was in an all previous episode.
No, you're right. The Traveler's another one.
Yeah.
The
last thing of this one is that Picard, when he's about to die, is like, if you ever go back to Starfleet, talk to my friend Boothby. He's the groundskeeper. Tell him I missed him, or I sent for him. So we'll probably see Boothby at some point.
Yeah.
What was our rating?
I don't think we settled on one. I'm between a B and a C, just because half this episode was kind of boring to me. But I think they stick the landing.
Yeah, it's a low B.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think Will Wheaton's good. Picard's always good.
Yeah, I think Will Wheaton does a great job.
Yep.
He's a pretty good actor.
We'll talk about Keiko later, but people are generally not wrong, but like you had said in your notes, I don't think people understand what they mean when they say a character is like difficult or frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like the characters' plots are bad, right? And I had my own journey with that with Cupid, which we'll talk about, where it's like, nah, Q's not bad. Q plots are bad. That's where I landed on it. But yeah, Wesley's not bad. It's just maybe sometimes the way that he's presented to you is not great. Anyway, let's talk about The Lost. This is an interesting episode.
Yes.
I'm wondering where we're going to put this one. Essentially, the core plot is that Deanna Troi loses her empathic ability, and she's navigating that and her role and her self-image, and what does she do when she's missing this fundamental sense that she has, and is really, really interesting. I'm curious about your thoughts on The Loss.
All the speeches in this episode are top tier. Her and Picard, her talking about and literally using the word disability. I was like, is this a disability metaphor? And they're like, no, it's actually textual. She is a disabled woman for this. And it's a short-term disability, but she treats it like it's as legit as anything else, which it is, and says, you guys are all treating me differently. The world feels different to me. I feel different. I feel like I'm missing something, but if I'm going to live like this, I'm going to live like it. Like, don't keep judging me or trying to be nice to me the way that, like, so many disabled people in the world have to deal with, is being coddled, is being infantilized. Because Troi is still, what she learns is that she can still be a great therapist without her racist empathy powers. Because this is also framed by a patient who has a really fascinating case where she lost a husband, or she, like, I think broke up with a husband who was very, I think, controlling.
I think he died. I think it's like a grief.
He died. Yeah. And to cover up for it, Deanna is like, oh, you should feel your emotions and let them out. And she comes back and she's like, I cried for a full day and now I'm good. And she's like, I'm glad for you, but I don't think you're good. I think one day is not enough to fix, like, to process the death of your husband. And then that's like when she doesn't have the empathy powers, and she quits and is like, I can't take your case anymore. But it turns out that she gave good advice all along, which is to take as much time as you need to grieve.
Yeah.
I would love to read about this episode from the perspective of the disabled community, or like a disability specialist, medical professional maybe, because it's fascinating, and I think it's mostly handling it really, really well. That's my gut feeling.
Yeah, it feels that way. I think especially Deanna's conversation with Picard, where, and you wrote about this in your notes, where Picard's like, well, I've heard that when you lose a sense, and Deanna's like, actually, there's no scientific basis for that, so stop. And he's like, well, I knew someone who was in a wheelchair. And she's like, dude, no, quit it.
Yeah, no model minority bullshit.
Yeah, that was a pretty powerful scene that I feel like must be on the money. Again, that's not something I can speak to, but it felt that way to me anyway. But also curious, about how people received it.
The A plot though is about this planet that's in 3D, and they're like, how do we deal with it? And she's like, what if we think in 2D? And then they view it as a flat image, and she's like, it's like people, they're multidimensional, and that's very corny to Alan, personally.
Yeah. Something funny that Arthur said when we were watching Family is he said that Guinan is the worst thing to happen to Deanna Troi, like in terms of her airtime in the show, because they do so many therapy style conversations. All sorts of characters just go to Guinan for advice in ways that like Troi would do that potentially. Right. And it was just funny that like in this episode, Troi goes to Guinan for advice. And Guinan like therapizes her into realizing that she's a good therapist, which is a great scene. I just love Guinan like playfully being like, well, I think I'll be the ship's counselor, and Troi being like,
wait,
huh? You? No way. I'll be the ship's counselor. And then Troi like knows exactly the strategy because she's a professional counselor, and that's the thing that she's like coming to appreciate about herself in this episode is like, it's not just about the sense, it's about the years of experience and expertise, but she like knows what Guinan is doing, and she's now having both sides of the conversation. I see you're doing this, you're trying to trick me into doing this, but little do you know this, and I'm a little too smart, a little too good at this. I thought that was such a great scene, and that was probably my favorite of the episode.
Low S, high A?
Yeah. I think let's give it A, just because those like doubts that we have about how well it lands it, and the ending being a little corny, and also wrapping it up with like, I have it again, yay.
We fixed it.
So I think it's an A for those reasons.
It's the A for me.
It's the A for me.
Amazing episode next.
Data's Day is great. It took me until the end of the episode. Did they say it at the beginning? I'm not sure, but he's addressing a letter to the guy who tried to say that Data wasn't a person.
I think that's correct.
I caught it at the end, but I don't know if he says it at the beginning or what. That's just kind of cute that Data just like sends him emails about how his day's going. I like that.
Hey, just an update. I've been figuring out romance. Oh.
Yeah. We're introduced to Keiko in this episode, is that right?
Yes.
I felt all the Keiko stuff, I felt like, did I miss something? Who is this? What are we doing? But all of a sudden, it's O'Brien is getting married, and here's Keiko, and she's marrying him, and she doesn't want to, but maybe she does. And Data introduced the two of them, and I'm like, huh? The what? Okay, I guess. And then she's like in the show a bunch after this, and it's like, what? What's her job? I don't get it. And I know we had you came over my house last week, and there was some table discussion between you and some of the other folks who were there about this character, maybe, or you were interested in getting people's opinions on her. What do you have thoughts on that?
So it seems like a lot of the fandom doesn't like Keiko, and from one of our friends' perspective, it was like, oh, there's episodes where she's really terrible to Miles, and she can be annoying, or blah blah blah. I think the valid complaint is that she's introduced a little bit weirdly, and even that they're like, oh, Data, you're the dad. It's like, what? Why? What? There's a couple instances this season of like, Data, you're my best friend and I've loved you for years. Or Geordi, you're my best friend. I've loved you for years. And it's like, who are you? Did I miss a whole episode? What?
Yeah, right.
So I think that's my problem with Keiko. I don't want to get into the like gender politics of people not liking her because she's a woman introduced like as a wife character to Miles, but she gives him fun stuff to do, and they're culturally very different, which is providing a lot of entertainment so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the gender stuff is very clearly there in like just how bare bones her characterization is, and how like that being the discourse about her of like she's annoying, it annoys me because it's like she's not being written very well. They're not telling you anything about her. She's not annoying. The show is annoying for being like, uh-oh, somebody's got a wife now. Yeesh. Oh, guys, you ever have a wife and she doesn't want to marry you?
I guess she's tied down.
Boy, yoy.
Yeah.
It's just like, what are we doing? Anyway. But otherwise, I thought this episode was very charming. And Data's narration throughout the whole thing is pretty cute.
Did you know that most of the stunts, the jazz tapping that Gates and Brent Spiner did were real? That they actually did most of them?
Oh, I believe it. They were incredible.
Yes. Apparently some of it was stunt actors, but most of it was them, which is amazing. Because I think Brent Spiner learned it. Gates McFadden already knew it. She had experience. That's so cool. I love when shit like that happens.
That's great.
They do a whole routine.
We also get introduced to Data's cat.
Spot. Cute.
Love Spot.
How can you not love a cat?
Love Spot. And I really like Geordi's at the barber and Data walks in and the voiceover says, I consider him my best friend.
Yeah.
Which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I like that. But yeah, anyway. That's Data's day. I think it's really charming. I think it's A worthy just because it's cute. Or B.
Yeah, it is
A or B.
I'm going to give it a B.
Okay.
I like it, though.
Next up, we have The Wounded, episode 12. This is the first appearance of the Cardassians.
Yes.
Who we saw in the DS9 pilot when we watched DS9.
Mm-hmm.
And we get some stuff about how there's tension between them and the Federation. There was some fighting, but now there's not. And O'Brien's here, and there's like an old commanding officer of his who he tries to talk down and say like, look, the war is over with these guys. I think where this episode suffers for me is so many other characters by this point in season 4, you can bring back people that they've had interactions with before.
Yeah.
And you can say, look, it's Worf's girlfriend from 2 seasons ago, or look, it's Data's twin brother, or look, it's Geordi's hologram lady who's real now, which we'll talk about. And you can have plots where characters are like talking to people they've met before or have connections with that we've already established. And this episode, it's like, okay, let's do an O'Brien episode. Who does O'Brien talk to? Well, he's got
no one.
His new wife from last episode, and he's got this guy we just made up in this alien race that we just made up also. And I think in the midst of that, the guy, who's the guy who plays
Maxwell?
O'Brien?
Oh, that's Cole Meany.
Cole Meany does a great job, and I think he really nails lines like, he's talking to the Cardassian guy in the bar, and he says, it's not you I hate, Cardassian. I hate what I became because of you. And you're like, oh,
traumatized by war.
Cole. Get that line. But otherwise, this episode doesn't super stand out.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the speech with Maxwell at the end is pretty good, but it's a classic, like, it's a Vietnam War thing, but not really. Where he's like, why we're not going to let them go? That's not fair. They're just going to start a new war. And he's like, O'Brien is like, yeah, but what if they don't? What if they lost and they're done?
Right.
And you're about to start it again. The guy's like, ugh, I guess. So I like that. I like seeing O'Brien. The scene where he sings with Maxwell, the Irish folk song, fantastic.
Yeah.
Best scene in the episode.
Yeah.
Whew. A tier episode.
You think so?
Yeah, I liked it. I like O'Brien very much. I want to hug him.
Okay.
Low A.
Yeah, I would be it. myself, but I'm happy to put A
Okay.
for our purposes.
Appreciate you. I'll give you a gimme later if we disagree.
Okay, great. I'll take that. This one's fucking weird. This is such a weird episode.
Yeah.
Devil's Due, episode 13. What the heck are we devils doing?
There's a woman on a planet who convinced all the people there that she's been around for millennia, and she subjugated them.
Yeah.
And now that it's been 1,000 years, their contract is up, and she's going to enslave all of them. Naturally,
Yeah.
Picard is like, that's really unfair. Also, I don't think you're magic. So we get this great court sequence where Picard and others are trying to interrogate her to figure out that, yes, all of her magic is in fact smokescreens beaming down from her ship. And she's kicked out, and the society fixes itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
This is a
there's
flat B for me.
She like poses as the devil and as the Klingon devil Feklar, and
I feel like you're
in the first 6 drafts of this script, by the way, the character of Ardra was male.
No kidding.
So
That's interesting.
there was some rewrite in there where they were like, it's just not sexy enough.
Yeah.
Let's do like a
Hot as
weird,
hell.
like flirting with Picard thing.
Sure.
Yeah. It's also, this is the problem. This is my Q rant part 1. This is the problem with having a show where Q exists, where like they're all like, she must be a con artist. There's no way that she's doing this stuff in a universe where like there are multiple Qs who are omnipotent beings who do this stuff, who you met in your first episode, and they have to sit at the table and be like, is she a Q? Nah, it doesn't seem like it. Anyway, I think she's faking it. Like, huh? B's right.
Yeah, hard B.
Do you want to take a break?
Yeah.
So next up is episode 14, Clues. This is another one that starts with kind of a scene that sets the stage, which is Guinan has come to play Dixon Hill, or should I say Gloria from Cleveland.
Cleveland
has come to play Dixon Hill. And Picard tries to explain what's fun about it, does a pretty good gangster accent. And
is it pretty good? I mean, it's fun.
It's pretty, that's the kind of good that it is. It's entertaining.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and she does one too, which is fun.
Yeah. And she's like, you like this? Which is good. And then we get into a bit of a mystery in the episode, which is that we get shot through a wormhole.
What?
Which seemed like it only took 30 seconds, but maybe it took longer. And Data is being super weird. What the heck? What's going on?
He's lying about stuff. He's going to get fired for lying. Data.
Yeah.
Turns out they got memory hold.
This was kind of a not interesting episode that had an incredibly great twist.
Yes.
Which is, wait, Data, who told you to not tell us stuff? Well, it was you Captain. Because there's this alien that doesn't want to be found, or these aliens don't want to be found.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, you wipe our memories. Well, what they do is they knock people out, but they couldn't knock Data out. Oh, you can't knock Data out, wipe our memories. Data will lie to us. But they left too many clues.
It's a Clue. The game Clue. Yeah. I love the setup for this. It's a classic mystery story. What's going on? Why did we lose time? And the reveal is really fun. Like, yeah, you guys didn't lose time. We just skipped time in your brain, basically.
Yeah. And it's
I
another
see more aliens like this. I love the weird existential aliens that mess up time and space.
Yeah. It's another episode that's also concerned with like memory and what you do remember or don't, which is a part of the best of both worlds thing of I remember all of it. It's in the Riker episode of Future Imperfect. And now this one is also about memory in a different way of like we have to fool ourselves into not remembering something, which is kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to see the version of this that's like they have to take like 6 tries at it to really make sure they're not leaving any clues behind.
Yeah, like a lazier show or like less economic show would have just wasted our time with that. Like, oh, we messed up this. We left a straw on the floor.
Yeah. Or Farscape would have done that. And it would have been 100%. Awesome. Yeah.
Rigel farted. The smell of farts is in the air.
Gotta go again. Sorry. Yeah.
So I think it's a high B, low A on account of the good premise.
Yeah, I'll give it a B just because I think it's not super entertaining for a lot of it, but then it is like, whoa. That's cool.
Absolutely. That's clues, folks.
Yeah. Then we get into an episode that you told me to look out for. This is an S tier episode. Let's just say it.
Yeah. Let's put that on the board right away.
Let's call it spade a spade. Oh my God. First Contact. This should have been the pilot. This is like a great first episode of TNG, I think.
I think the problem with that is that we spend 15 minutes now with our cast. What pilot approver would be like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Right. True.
That's the only thing. But I agree. It like sets up the Prime Directive in a very deliberate and cool way while telling us this completely different story about like a different crew of people not related to the Enterprise. And what happens when the Enterprise visits you? What paranoia does that cause? It features some great performances. One of the council members being like, we can't keep accepting foreign help. That's how we get destroyed. Something political going on there. Him trying to martyr himself and failing. There's something going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, really liked it. And then my favorite part is the woman who's like, you know, Riker, you're an alien. I've always wanted to fuck an alien. Can I fuck you? He's like, no. Let me roll that out of my head. No, you can't.
Oh my God.
And then she comes with them.
That's a different person.
I could have sworn that was this person.
No, different. He doesn't have sex with her? I thought he did.
I don't think so.
Okay, good. That's good.
Because
it was like funny, and then it's like, did he actually?
Yeah.
I don't actually know. No, the person that goes with them is the space minister. Oh. The woman that helps Riker get out was like just someone who worked at the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, TNG, yes.
Different.
It's also a Red Scare paranoia thing, which comes up in a better way later. But there's also just some classic like Star Wars imperial racism. Like, we can't have foreign invaders coming. Like, that's just objectively bad. And they're like, why? And he's like, because I said so.
Right.
So villains are a little nuanced, but not very nuanced.
Yeah, it scratched that itch for me of a human reaction, the Farscape episode, where basically the premise for people who haven't seen Farscape is the main character has been tossed out of an Earth that we understand far into space, and in that episode gets perspective on what it would be like to bring his new alien friends back home to Earth, which is to say it would go badly.
Right.
And I appreciate it when sci-fi shows present Earth as like what
don't bring people here.
Yeah, what it would be like if like our kind of our history as it has happened
Yeah.
had weighed on a first contact situation. And we get to see, even though the humans are the Federation, really this planet here is a proxy for Earth and what would reasonably happen on Earth if an intergalactic federation was like, hey, want to join us? Humanity would fuck it up and be
Every
really
time.
messy and bad.
Yes.
And I think that is a pretty cool
I love that they don't
premise
accept
for an
it in
episode.
this. It's so
Yeah.
good. And they're like,
Yeah.
maybe later. Like, maybe eventually. But right now, it's a hard no.
Right,
And you
we're
need to
not
see
ready.
that. You need to see when this doesn't work.
Yeah.
I think this is this is an S tier. No question
Easily.
about it.
Yeah.
Magellan, next up, we're talking Galaxy's Child. Remember that time that Geordi fucked the holodeck? No, wait.
Remember that time that Geordi paid the consequences for fucking the holodeck? Pretty
Yeah.
good.
He
Pretty great episode.
he met Leah. What's her last name? Leah something. The person who created the engine of the Enterprise, and he fell in love with the hologram version of her. Well, the real woman is here now, and she doesn't like him. I thought this was hilarious. This is what happens when you simp an online girlfriend for too long and then you meet her. It's super awkward, but you're an adult. And she's also married, and just be an adult about it and don't be weird and say sorry.
Yeah. Can I play you a captain's log that I recorded for this one?
Please do.
Okay, so this is less about the episode. It's sort of about the episode. I won't give it all away, but it's more about an idea I had watching the episode. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so this is my brilliant business idea. Captain's log stardate December 29th, 2022, approximately 1:13 p.m. So I just finished episode 18. Scary stuff. What's that called? Spooky town. Turn into an alien. Identity crisis, which was the second Geordi episode of the season. That's something that I had been craving for a while, but I'm recording this as a response to episode 16, specifically Galaxy's Child, just because in part I want to celebrate the fact that we got Geordi episodes, but really I want to take note of an idea that I had here, which is for an AI assisted dating app to basically do what happened to Geordi and Leah, but on purpose, where you can train an AI to talk like you, so that people can talk to the AI to see if they're into you before you talk. And anyway, I had that idea. I think we're going to see that in our lifetime, and I wanted to make a record of it being my idea right here, inspired by Star Trek. Anyway, it looks like we're going to do some sort of a theater play in episode 19. That's kind of fun. So here we go. This is your brain on a 12 episode marathon of Star Trek in one day. It's
what if dating
similar to being high on marijuana or something.
Yeah, or having a really high fever while doing all of that. Yeah,
right. So that was my idea. But I was really glad that they explored the consequences of that episode, because if I remember correctly, when we watched it, we were a little like, Geordi, weird, bud. And they address it. They do it, sort of. And then at the end, she's like, I'm sorry for getting so mad at you. Boy, I'm silly. They kind of fuck it up in the very end. But, they almost did it. And I think it's a pretty good episode.
I think that the ending dulls it for me down to a high B. But I'm glad she stayed with her husband.
Yeah.
A lot of B's right now. Let's get some higher up stuff, man. Not the next one.
Child is a B. I'm just putting that there.
Yeah, not the next one's not. I don't think much higher than a B, but I want to talk about Night Terrors. What you really know about the Night Terrors? Nothing. Okay, Cuddy for you. Classic Nightmares on the Ship episode. I got no complaints about this. Everybody's having nightmares. They're all worried about stuff. They're stressing about stuff. And at first, it's like, okay, is this episode like about how important it is to sleep? And I also wrote like, wow, it's another episode that shows us how easy it is to just knock out the Enterprise. But also, even if you take, like, we're still human. This is a season that reminds us that, like, even with all the magic of Utopia, we are still people. And if you take away the things that humans require, we cannot function. Like, even on a perfect futuristic ship, if you sleep deprive people, they're not going to be able to do anything. Data's the only one here who can fucking pilot this ship after everything goes bad. And I just find that really charming. What about you?
Yeah, this is one where I think season 4 at its worst is episodes like this, where it starts off just really tropey. We've seen a million shows do suddenly everybody's tense, or suddenly everybody's being mean to each other, or whatever. Like any procedural show from the 90s to the aughts, I'm certain has an episode where everybody's snapping at each other and feeling paranoid for whatever reason. But the season 4-ness of it is, we're gonna like make an interesting idea happen here, which is the stuff where Troy is in her dreams communicating with this other alien species whose like telepathic signals are messing with people's REM sleep, and they're able to have this exchange of information where they shoot the elements they need to into the space gap to create an explosion. And like, that's a cool concept that I think they pull that off pretty well. So that for me is what, for many episodes like this, save them in season 4, is like, you started in kind of a tropey place, but you really took the time to make this a new idea, which was compelling to me. So not my favorite episode, but not bad.
Definitely in my lower tier of season 4.
Yeah. Is this our first C?
For me, it is.
I guess we do know about the Night Terrors.
Nothing.
Okay.
Acting Captain Data makes me happy. When he said acting Captain Data reporting for duty, I loved that.
Yeah. Next up is episode 18, Identity Crisis. So we had to invent a Geordi friend so that he could have there are some characters in season 4 who have like a deep bench of supporting characters. Like Worf has a deep bench of, okay, let's bring in Worf's girlfriend, let's bring in Worf's nemesis, his brother. Like, there are too many characters for Worf to hang out with.
Yeah.
For Geordi, it's like, well, there's his hologram girlfriend, and that's it.
That's all we got.
So here's a new friend from his old job. And turns out everyone from his old job is dying or something.
They're all mysteriously... They try to do this like found footage thing of like, oh, we found like the video where they all died and who could have been there if there's no body there. I think that this episode has a good amount of horror elements to it. I like what you said there about like Geordi is a character who he doesn't have a roster, he doesn't have a bench, he just reacts to the other characters really well. Like the characters that we already know, he has a good relationship with each of them uniquely. But where this episode worked for me was the great sequence of like him playing detective and like rewinding, reversing footage,
that was
placing
awesome
himself
sequence.
in the holodeck. And he's able to create this like blob recreation of the monster, which turns out to be this like neon alien that possesses people like a virus, and it possesses him, and he becomes a neon creature. It looks kind of goofy. I still thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it reminded me of some of the cooler story moments from Cyberpunk, where you're able to like review somebody's first person tape of something that they experienced. I forget what they call it in Cyberpunk, but it's a similar thing where you can like rewind and walk around the room, and I was like, this is a cool thing, and they're really like putting a lot of thought into it. But it also just leads to like, I found it, a monster,
A blob.
Yes, that's the answer. So.
Yeah, a shapeless blob.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a B for me.
Yeah, definitely season 4. This is where it starts to slump, right?
Yep, we're in the slump.
Yeah.
But we're pulled out of the slump, or are we, by another Barclay episode called The Nth Degree. Do you guys remember Barclay? He's the really cowardly guy who's like anxious and he thinks nobody likes him. And last season he used the holodeck to make recreations of everyone on the ship, and they got made fun of him for it, but then they felt bad for making fun of him. In this episode, things go from 0 to 100 real quick as Barclay is shown I'm making a lot of Drake references tonight. Barclay is shown like preparing for this play that he's doing with Beverly Crusher. He's nervous about that. He's nervous about everything. He's bad at his job. And then a space rock, I guess, comes by, or he gets hit with a laser or something that makes him really smart. And at first it's like, oh, he's good at the ladies. He's got confidence. We're not going to talk about the science of how like you can add confidence to someone's brain, because don't worry about it. And then he gets too smart and he melds his mind with the ship, and they have to pull him out, but he's going to die if they pull him out. And he rebuilds a brain inside of a holodeck, and they have to disassemble it. It just gets, I loved how much this exponentially blew up, because at first they're like, right. Like it's fine. I guess it's okay if Barclay's like really good at things. That's probably not an issue. Not going to bite us in the, he wants to become the ship. That's our bad. Oopsie.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if you're as big of a fan of a Barclay as I am. How did you feel about this one?
I couldn't remember. I was trying to think, did I like Barclay the first time around? And I was really charmed by him in this one. And then the episode just went off the rails and he's plugged into the computer, and then Deanna Troy's like, all right, let's go on that date. Okay. Silly. So I really liked him being in the play and being a really good actor. That was pretty fun.
Because Dwight Schultz is just a good actor.
Yeah. And I'd love to see more Barclay. But they just took this one far past 11 in a way where, how do you do another Barclay episode where he's just a normal ass dude after this? I don't know. So they're fine.
Their explanation was that the Cytherians replaced his brain with theirs because it's like a brain exchange, and so they explored the universe via other people's brains. Kind of a fascinating idea. They don't go anywhere.
A cool idea.
Because he's like, someone's like, oh, they're doing what we do. They're doing what the Enterprise does. They just don't go anywhere. And I like that. But it led to him like having the lights coming out of his brain. Also, my one like translator microbes nitpick is he's able to say like, computer, make me a left and right console in the holodeck. Okay, now computer, now make it so this console can do everything on the Enterprise. Why is he allowed to just do that? Who did he get authorization? Why is the holodeck allowed to do that?
Right. Yeah.
What? It's like if I went in and
loophole.
If I was like, computer, can you create a button that blows up the Enterprise? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. Like, what? And it works.
Well, the computer's like, I don't know how to do that. And he's like, don't worry, I'll tell you how. The computer should be like,
yeah,
no, don't do that.
Well, because the computer should say, I can't let you do that, John, like 2001: A Space Odyssey. But instead, he says it to Picard later. He does the 2001 line. Where he's like, Barclay, get out of the computer. And he's like, I can't let you do that.
The computer is my favorite character in this season because it's so particular.
Sassy, petty.
And there's so many interactions in season 4 of characters being like, computer, could you do this? And the computer's like, I can't help you. You got to be more specific.
Yeah.
Like when Geordi's setting up the date that he thinks is a date with Leah in episode 16. Yeah. And he's trying to pick the music. What an awesome scene. So fun. and he's having to get more and more technical and specific with the computer to get like the lighting. He's like, give me mood lighting, and the computer's like, what's a mood?
What is mood?
Yeah, you got to simplify this for me. So there's a lot of fun computer interactions.
Computer, soft music. No, soft guitar. No, soft classical guitar. No, bossa nova. Fuck. Yeah, I love the computer very much.
Yeah.
Or when is it Riker? Oh, and the Riker is in that episode where he knows that he's inside of a simulation that we already talked about already, and there's a lag, and he's like, God, stupid computer. I hate that there's a lag. I guess that's how he knew it was a bad thing, but yeah.
It's fun.
I love the computer. How do we feel about the Nth Degree?
It
I feel like I've been giving all the ratings. Give me the rating.
It's wacky, but it's still entertaining. It's a B for me, I think.
Okay. All right, Ruben Studdard. No Reggie Watts. No. Who judges American Simon Cowell?
Are you thinking of
I can see his face, dude.
Me too.
I'm so bad at
What's that guy's name? Paul Abdul, Simon Cowell, in between them.
They're gonna rhyme it. Oh, do a Simon Cowell. Don't forget to bring your towel.
Oh my god. Shit. Who are the original judges?
We will not move forward, folks, until we figure out who is.
I've got to figure this out. Originally planned on having 4 judges following the pop out. Only 3 judges have been found by the time of the audition round of the first season. Randy Jackson.
Randy Jackson, my man. That's kind of a generic name.
Randy Jackson. That's right. Tell me the most recent hosts, or the most recent judges.
Carrie Underwood.
No. In the most recent season.
Lionel Richie, Katy Perry, and the third man.
Luke Bryan.
Luke Bryan? Okay. Oh, sure. Okay. That's a good genre spread. Whatever.
Harry Connick Jr. was a judge for like a season or something, and I saw a clip online of him giving someone feedback, and he was like really good at it.
Oh.
And I kind of want feedback from Harry Connick Jr.
I'll ask him for it. I'll ask him to go to you. You want to talk about Cupid?
I do.
Hold on. Can you talk about what Cupid is about while I look up this hilarious joke I'm about to make?
Sure. So, speaking of characters with deep benches, turns out Picard has got some wacky little characters that we just decided to toss into a single episode here. One of them being Q. One of them being Picard's girlfriend, I guess. The way that she's
his
upset.
Flame.
Yeah, his flame, Vash.
Yeah.
Who
Love
he
that
met
name,
on Picard's beach vacation last season. And she's here because he's speaking in front of like an archaeological committee or something. And she likes archaeology. I forget what he's there to talk about, but that's happening.
Sure.
And she's like, hey, Picard, give me a kiss. I want to go around and talk to everybody about you. She's like upset that he hasn't talked about her. It's like, what's the relationship here? I don't know. It's a little strange.
Yep.
Also, there must be there's like a noticeable age gap between her and Patrick Stewart.
The problem is that
it.
Patrick Stewart's so hot, but Vash is like supermodel hot. Like, it's weird.
It's absurd. It's
the
really
part where she like
absurd
folds
how
her
attractive
legs
she is.
on the oh, is this where Jean-Luc sits? I was like, oh my god, I'm looking at a beautiful human being. This is like so much for me right now.
My favorite interaction when Riker's trying to flirt with her and she's like, hey, Riker. And he says, I believe you have me at a disadvantage. Yes, that's correct. Anyway, yeah. So she's on the ship and Q shows up. Fucking Q. Hey, Picard, I owe you big time. Let me give you something. What? You don't want anything? Fine. Fuck you. I'm going to turn you into Robin Hood, and you are going to have to save Vash from whatever the Robin Hood bad guy is. Mm-hmm. Do it.
Duke of Nottingham.
Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, fine, I guess. And then we just do like a fucking silly ass Robin Hood time
It's great.
And
It's
it
great.
ends. This part I liked. It ends with Vash being like, "I'm gonna go hang out with Q now,"
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Yeah.
it. That's Cupid.
She wants to go on adventures, and Q is going on adventures. Here's my thing. First of all, this feels like a Farscape episode where it's like we just
Yeah.
needed an excuse to put them in funny costumes, and it works. The part where Troy is testing out her bow and she shoots Data in the stomach is so funny. Please rewatch it, folks. Where he's just like, oh,
Pretty good.
she's like,
Pretty good.
Data, and he just is like, oh. So funny. Worf wearing his little red outfit. Me and like fandom people love episodes like this. Just give them a chance to wear stupid outfits and do nothing for 30 minutes. I don't care. I've decided I've been back on Tumblr lately in a big way. I really like Tumblr again.
Okay. Yep.
I can talk to you more about it off air, but
What do you got?
that I have become one of the premier Q Picard shippers on Tumblr right now. I love Q and Picard as a ship. Sincerely, dude. Because
What's the name of that ship?
there is, I forgot what it is.
Q card.
It's something like that. Oh my
Q.
god! Oh my god, Q card. Q
card. Yeah.
You just okay, whatever it is, I don't care. It's Q card now. No, I just love the way that Q is like, come on, be with me. I love you, and I adore you. And that like tsundere way that Picard is like, no, like that's so weird. Like, don't talk to me. But also like, oh no, you're back. Like, oh no, that's so. Don't mess with us. Oh my god, I guess I'm Robin Hood. I guess we'll do your little game. Whatever. I'll put on it. There's clearly something there. Then I'm gonna go a little bit feral here because I love it. It feels a little bit gay to me, folks. And the fact that Picard's old girlfriend leaves with Q is just, it satisfies the shipper brain in me.
I agree 100%. This is the Q episode that has been the least offensive to me so far.
Yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah.
Q card is totally the name of the ship. Yep, it has a wiki page.
Awesome.
It has a wiki. My joke, by the way.
Yeah. What was
Those
that?
were good times. We had our little fights, broke it off one night. I hopped out the whip heated, needed something I could feel like I believed in, went straight for a bottle. She called me back when she was leaving. Breathing heavy on the other line. I'm standing on the block stupid. Been running from myself, but couldn't seem to dodge Cupid.
Yeah. I don't know that song.
Yes, you do. That's Talk to You by Kids these days.
Oh.
Couldn't seem to dodge
I
Cupid
do.
well. Graduated
yeah.
and grown. Pick up the phone line.
This is the most narrow casted reference. I feel like I have to explain to people what is being referenced here.
There's an artist, a fundamental part of Magellan and I's friendship was him showing me in 2012 a band called Kids These Days. Who no longer exists, but they had an incredible album called Trap House Rock, which you can still find on the internet, not on Spotify. It's full of samples, and it's a great rap, jazz, fusion album. It's beautiful. The best song on the album is called Talk, the number 2, You, and it features the line that I just read. There's your Jack.
If you know Vic Mensa, he used to be in Kids These Days.
He was the front lead rapper of Kids These Days, yes.
Yeah.
Donnie Trumpet, the trumpeter for Kids These Days, now works with Chance the Rapper. It's a whole thing. Great.
Yeah.
Everyone's caught up. Cupid, A+. It's an A episode for me.
Stop it.
It's an A episode. What do you mean? Vash is basically Catherine Sakai, except good.
Shut the fuck up.
Where's the lie? Where is the lie?
Fine, you win. Cupid
Good.
is an A tier episode. I get to determine the next 3 for giving that to you.
All right, well, the next 2 are all good, so go ahead. Go off.
I think you're right. Okay, so the next one, episode 21, is called The Drumhead.
Yeah.
And yeah. Okay, this is like the McCarthyism one.
Tarsus,
That's right.
he thinks he's half Vulcan, but he's actually half Romulan.
How do we get there? How do we I don't think I was following this one super well. How do we get to like we're doing these McCarthy style hearings exactly?
A chamber thing explodes on the Enterprise. They think that it's sabotage. They think that it's the Romulans. They're worried about that. And so they bring on people from Starfleet, because if it's somebody on the ship, then they can't be. They're going to be biased as a judge. The judges turned out to be the real biased people.
Got it. And it turns into this like naming names thing, and then this really great scene where they put Picard on the stand, and they're like, well, you let a Romulan spy get away, and also you were controlled by the Borg that one time, so what's the deal with that?
Yeah.
Pretty valid questions. Yeah.
There's some big, weird sci-fi nonsense in here. Jadon, the like Klingon who I think did the bad thing, the way he gets the data is that he has a syringe that he injects files into people's blood with. It's really weird, really bizarre idea.
Right.
He like can process data into liquid, put it into a syringe, and then inject people with data to make them like living like secret files. There's a Betazoid investigator, which seems unfair, and then the judge is like, "Well, you guys have your own Betazoid that you use all the time. Why is that fair?" It's a morality play. I like a good morality play.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to me for how do I say this? Like the politics of this episode are not particularly revolutionary to me, because this feels like a pretty widely accepted analysis of the Red Scare. And like, if we're doing a Red Scare allegory, we're not. Maybe in the 90s this feels different, or the late 80s this feels different. Are we in the 80s still?
No, we're in the early 90s.
Early 90s. Maybe in the early 90s this feels different, and maybe we're even talking about more recent events. And this is obviously a timeless theme in American history, but it just feels a little pat to me for Picard to get up there and espouse these kind of like, not particularly
nuance.
These are values that I think any American would be like, yeah, that's my values. I believe in freedom and not persecuting people and whatever. It's just that people then like don't live by those values. So to me, it's not an S tier episode just because of that. But
yeah, good. I think it's a solid A, and especially with the ending about like, we how could we have known that like Starfleet was going to have bad people in it? And then Picard says like, sometimes he doesn't say fascists and bigots, but he says like bad people disguise themselves as ideologues. They say a lot of big things and they sound like they know what they're talking about, and those are the people that you shouldn't trust. And I think that's the like thematic meat here to bring it to A tier.
Yeah. He says something like, it's easy when the bad guy's twirling a mustache.
Right.
It's fun. Okay. Episode 22, Half a Life.
Mr. Worf, those who twirl their mustaches are easy to spot. Those who clothe themselves in good deeds are well camouflaged.
Yes. Right.
Sorry.
So episode 22, Half a Life. This is the Lwaxana Troi episode you have always been dreaming of and hoping for out there, audience.
Oh my God.
She is the main character of this one, and it's pretty moving. It's a pretty good episode.
I think I give this... Go, please. No, I was going to give it a rating.
The plot of it is that she befriends this scientist who's trying to de-age the star in his planet's star system, and he helps the Enterprise to start that work, but something goes a little wrong, so he's not fully able to complete it, and then he has to go home. What was the problem with going home? Well, on my planet we execute people when they turn 60 as opposed to caring for them until they're dead. And so Lwaxana has this kind of Twilight romance with this guy who knows that he's about to go home to die, and they navigate these questions about like aging and like really finding yourself and finding what you love and finding somebody you love, but when you don't have a lot of time left. And it's this really beautiful set of conversations they have. I think it's a really well done episode, and such a surprise to take a character who's been this like goofball comedic relief character and make her angry and sad and hopeful and like explore this huge range of human emotion.
Mm-hmm. It
So, pretty good.
it welled up a lot of emotion in me. I don't know. I think Luoxana talking about like elder care and kind of innocently but very reasonably being like, well, why don't you guys even give them the chance to live a life? What if somebody's sick and you don't offer them the opportunity to take their life early? You make them live out their term. It works both ways. Doesn't that seem kind of bullshit? And it feels like she's talking to us in a lot of ways. Like, why do we not treat our elderly the way they are, the way that they should be? Why do we judge other societies for handling this differently? And we hold so tightly to our own beliefs. And what's the saddest, though, for me, is that it works on him and he starts to believe it. But what he can't do is he can't change society. He's only one person in like the last couple of years of his life. And we get the best moment is when his daughter comes onto the ship and is like so angry at him because she's like, you don't get to decide this. You don't get to take this decision away from the rest of our society. What if 8 million people didn't want to do that and they do want to end their lives at 60 still? And you're telling them, no, it's all changed? Because change comes from enough people in a wave deciding things like this. And it's sad to say, but throughout history, there have been people like this gentleman, who, like Timison, who have been like, I think that this needs to be fixed fundamentally. And then hundreds of years go by before anything can happen.
Right.
This one got tears out of me. And for me, it's an S tier.
I agree with that.
And Ryan Slowinski in our Discord chat was saying how like this episode works especially, and in his question at the beginning, like we don't know Timison at the beginning of this episode, and by the end I'm like welling up with emotion at him leaving to end his life.
Right.
So that's just a testament to that. And like Luoxana, yeah, we know her, and it works better that we know before now she's been so funny, she's been so sexual and whatnot, and she's finally like grasping real life and the like people in front of her in a meaningful way. And I just love that a lot.
Yeah, agreed.
Hard ass.
Yeah.
Let's pivot to a stupid one. It's the host. It's the first appearance of the Trill.
What a weird episode.
But Beverly is suddenly, speaking of people just being in love or knowing someone that we don't know, she just has been with this guy to the point where they're in like a sexual relationship. It turns out he's a Trill, or it's a Trill controlling his body.
Mm-hmm. The
Trill jumps into some other bodies, and she feels complicated feelings about it. It seems like it's dying. By the end, the Trill is in the body of a woman, and she's like, I don't know about that, you guys. And TNG is basically saying, come back next show for an actual nuanced portrayal of gender and sexuality with the Trill.
Yeah.
People thought that this was homophobic.
It is a bit, wouldn't you say?
Well, I think her saying, like, I don't think I like the thing. What she's realizing is that, yes, the body is partly what she liked. That there is a physical attraction when it's in a male's body, and that's gone. And she can't climb past that.
Mm.
But I think that it's also that the show, like the writers or time or history, hadn't advanced enough that they could just say, like, yeah, sure, have a main character on the show be attracted to the alien, not to the body. So it's like disappointing because Beverly is someone who I think is like pretty progressive and forward thinking, but I was a little bit let down by it, but not too much.
Yeah, it definitely feels like I'm glad that they were like, this feels like something to address. Like if you fall in love with a being that has different hosts, you're going to have to be in love with like someone whose body is changing constantly, and is that possible? But I think there isn't really a counterweight to Beverly saying like, sorry, I'm only into guys, which is it's an incomplete picture, I think.
Right. I think like in today's world, there is room for like a story of a couple who starts out as a hetero couple and one of them transitions and the other one says, now my feelings for you are complicated. Because unfortunately that happens a lot. And it's something that I have anxieties about, even like as a non-binary person. I'm like, do people, when they find out about this part of me, are they no longer attracted to me because they like me for being a guy? That has happened literally recently. So I get that. And I empathize with with the Trill here. But like, this feels like a beta plot line, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, literally, like the Trill in DS9 are not a big slug. And also they can take transporters. They say in this episode that he can't take a transporter because it'll reassemble his body weirdly. That's not how it works. So they figured out the Trill after this. But
yeah.
Also, the Trill being in Riker was like kind of weird.
So weird when Riker puts on the dude's weird clothes and is like hanging out.
Looks like a dork.
Yeah. This is like a C.
Yeah. I want Crusher to have a boyfriend, but I also want it to be Picard.
Yeah.
Or Troy. Anyways. Wait, no. So okay, I'll work on my ideal pairings between now and next season, guys. Don't worry.
Okay,
Don't you worry.
Perfect.
What's next?
So then we have episode 24, The Mind's Eye, which pulls an unfair bait and switch. It starts with Geordi heading off to where Picard had his beach adventure. And it's like, thank God, Geordi's going to get a beach adventure. And Geordi's like setting up the shuttle pod. He tells the computer that he wants a Latin beat, is what he says.
Yeah!
And he's like, actually, I just remembered I like acoustic guitar from the other episode.
Right.
Then he tries to like play a game with the computer, which is really fun. He's like playing a word game or like a trivia game with it. And then he gets captured. Yeah, exactly. Then he gets captured by the Romulans.
No.
And they like do stuff to him and they turn him into like a Manchurian candidate thing, sleeper agent guy.
It's kind of scary.
And it's scary. It's like we're still doing the thematic ramifications of Best of Both Worlds, which is interesting. But the whole time I was just like, you stole the Geordi Beach Adventure episode from me. So I don't even want to watch what you're doing right now.
Yeah, give Geordi a freaking break.
Yeah.
I think that bumps it down to a B. I have some more notes on it, though.
Yeah, what do you got?
This becomes like a tense spy thriller for a bit. That little part where Data tells Worf to arrest Geordi, and like he's like, I guess I have to. And then like that, he's like running away and all that stuff. I was like, oh, this is so scary and sad. They're like best friends, like having to go against each other's like basic thoughts to do this. And then that ending, because like, you know, the end of the Barclay episode is like, I still remember some of the big brain stuff. Ha ha ha, what a twist. And the sad other version of that is the ending of this one is Geordi realizing he still doesn't remember what happened on Risa.
Mm-hmm.
Which is just like, he's going to have to live with this, just like Picard's going to have to live with the Borg. So it is the same storyline again, kind of, but he doesn't actually... Does he? I don't think he kills the senator in this.
No, I don't think so.
So, yeah, I think it's a B. It's a good B.
Yeah,
but
it's fine.
Give Geordi a break. Give Geordi a break. And then winding down here, we have the last two episodes. First up is In Theory. What is this one again?
This one's great. This is the one where Data is in a relationship.
Oh my God. Data girlfriend. The second to last episode of the season is Data has a girlfriend.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It's great.
So there's this girl named Jenna who had a bad relationship with a guy named Jeff. Jenna and Jeff, dumb couple name. She's like, Data, you're the only guy who listens. Again, like, why do these two people know each other? Whatever. It establishes that the people on the Enterprise talk.
They're in the Woodwind Ensemble together. Duh.
With Keiko also.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. Sorry, I just remembered that you were in orchestra with people that you had feelings for at some point. So you're like, wait.
Both of my high school girlfriends were in orchestra. Yeah. That's
Both
right.
my high school girls. Sheesh.
Sheesh.
And him not knowing that she's flirting with him, and then he tries to flirt with her, but he programs himself to flirt. And she's like, can you just be the real you? And then Data hits me with the existentialism and says, there is no real me.
Yeah.
Christ.
Sheesh.
What's hilarious is that there is an A plot to this episode. It really feels like they threw in an A plot, but it gets kind of intense for 2 seconds. It's like
I have no notes about it. I was not interested at all.
I didn't either. And then it was like, okay, weird stuff is happening on the ship. Like doorbells are ringing, and people think that they're hearing noises, whatever. But then a woman falls through the floor and dies. Like she clips through the floor like it's a video game and dies.
Right.
And you're like, what? I read that 2 things about this episode, 2 trivia. 1, this episode was inspired by the female fandom falling in love with Spock. Because they always said, I could fix him and I want to fix him. And so they said, what if a girl got with the emotionless character? And they could let her be the female self-insert. I think that works pretty well. I think it's sad to say that, yeah, the similar things would happen with Spock, although he can express emotions. So it's not the same thing.
Right.
Also, this episode was directed by Patrick Stewart.
Really?
Yeah, he directed the Data romance episode.
That's awesome. I love the montage at the core of this where Data's going around asking everybody for advice is so good.
Best part of the episode.
Yeah. Basically, the way it goes is he goes to Guinan, and Guinan's like, whoa, this is weird. He goes to Geordi, and Geordi's like, I'd love to give you advice, but I'm Geordi. Then he goes to Troy, and she's like, and then Worf is like, make sure that you are like, take care of her or I will beat you up.
Yeah.
Riker, after Data goes to 4 different people who are like, Riker's like, yes, dude.
Hell yeah, dude. Go.
Fucking go for it.
Get it.
I love the way Picard brushes it off where he's like, yes, I've heard you've been asking people about this. Look, I'd love to talk, but I'm busy right now, but definitely would love to talk. I gotta go. I'll see you later.
Picard asexual. Picard asexual. Picard asexual.
Picard asexual.
If I keep saying it, it'll come true. Do you want to see a picture of Patrick Stewart directing Geordi about Data and Guinan in this?
Yeah, I do.
He's wearing denim. He's wearing denim.
Look at that denim.
It's on the wiki, folks, on the Memory Alpha, if you want to see it. I think this is an A episode.
Yeah, I think so.
You know why? Because 2 things. Number 1, the part where he goes, "Are we no longer a couple? Then I will delete the appropriate program." I say the same thing at the end of all of my relationships. I say the same thing. Except for me, the program is girlfriend.exe on my desktop. It's like a photo album. It's very cute. Also, did we talk about how Data has a cat?
We talked about it in the first appearance of the cat, but there's a lot more cat content in this one. It's great.
Spot. I love Spot.
Me too.
Very much.
I live for Spot.
Star Trek 2, The Search for Spot.
Yeah.
If I laugh the other way, I'm going to start coughing a lot.
I'm sorry. You're right.
It's okay. Want to talk about the finale now?
Let's do it.
So it gets big, folks. This is Redemption Part 1. It's a 2-parter that ends at the beginning of Season 5. Picard balances his Federation and Klingon duties as new Klingon Chancellor Gowron faces a civil war. Meanwhile, Worf and his brother Curran fight to regain their father's honor. Whoa. This is another great Worf episode.
This episode is fantastic.
Holy crap. I was so... did you watch Part 2?
No.
I didn't either. No. I just wanted to watch it really badly, and I managed to not do it. I was like, I'm going to wait 3 months.
Yeah.
Or not, whenever I decide to watch.
Wait till
start season
we
5.
record this. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So the 2 plots happening at the same time. Picard like establishing and figuring out what's going on within the Klingon homeworld and what's the High Council up to. This is like Game of Thrones stuff. There's a boy king now.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, because there's a lot of moving pieces. Worf wants Gowron to rule because he said he will reinstate Worf's family. To do that, Worf used Starfleet records to prove that his family was unfairly betrayed, and he works with his brother, who's played by Tony Todd, who owns a bunch of ships that he's going to give to Gowron. Duras, who died previously, has a son who's being puppeted by Duras' sisters. He has like 3 sisters. Worf is actually able to get Gowron installed and get his family name back, but now he has to support Gowron because Duras' family is not going to take this hands down. So an upcoming Klingon civil war is brewing, and In order for him to interfere with this, he has to interfere with planetary politics, breaking the Prime Directive, which means he can't work for Starfleet. So the episode ends with Worf quitting Starfleet.
Oh, so good.
Holy shit. Not only the resignation, but the part where he walks down the line and everybody's like looking at him and saluting him. Oh my god, dude. So good.
So good. Amazing. Absolutely
so
amazing.
Good.
Yeah.
And then just let's throw in a little extra. Duras' sisters are being assisted by a Romulan who looks suspiciously like Tasha Yar. Do you know what's up with that?
I spoiled it for myself.
My man, I figured. I did too, though, but I'm allowed to.
But what a reveal! Because I was watching it with Arthur. Hi,
Arthur.
And I was like, "Wait, who's that in the shadows? Was I supposed to know who that was?" And he's like, "No, I don't know. That's interesting." Like he really didn't give it away. And then freaking Tasha Yar steps out of the shadows, and I'm like, "What? What? Excuse?"
Really good reveal.
Such a fun. I can't wait.
This episode pulls together everything. Like the Klingon stuff is my favorite stuff in TNG right now. I always love to see it.
This is like Babylon 5 quality stuff of like
100%.
here is the crescendo moment where everything gets fucked. So, and this is going to be the new normal. And it's doing that Babylon 5 thing of like, let's set this up and resolve it like in the first third of the next season kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll come back.
Yeah, so I think this is an S tier episode in my opinion.
Absolutely agreed. I don't even it's fulfilling on its own. Like it doesn't feel like it's half of it is bigger, part of a bigger story, but I felt satisfied by it.
Yeah. I'm surprised it's a call to part 1. That honestly has me a little worried that they're going to wrap it up in the first episode of season 5.
In literally an episode, yeah. We'll find out.
We'll see.
The Klingon Civil War begins in season 5 of TNG. So that concludes our rankings. Can you tell me at least our S tier episodes?
Yeah, I can give you everything.
Okay.
So our C tiers were Night Terrors and The Host. At B, we have Brothers, Clue, Data's Day, Devil's Due, Suddenly Human, Legacy, Future Imperfect, Final Mission, Galaxy's Child, Identity Crisis, The Nth Degree, and The Mind's Eye. A tier, The Best of Both Worlds Part 2, The Lost, The Wounded, Cupid, The Drumhead, and In Theory. And our S tier episodes from Season 4 of Star Trek The Next Generation are Family, Remember Me, Reunion, First Contact, Half a Life, and Redemption Part 1. Those
Love
are
it.
some nice episodes. And just to put a fine point on this, you compare this with Season 3, our rankings there. Season 3, we had one D tier episode. No D tiers in this one. Nothing below a C. Season 3, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 C tier episodes.
Ooh.
So things are on their way up. We've doubled the number of S tier episodes. We've added 1 A tier. We've vastly increased the number of B tier episodes. So season 4 is, just by the numbers here, in our opinions, much better than the ones that have come before. Which is pretty fun. Yeah.
It's definitely the best season so far. I think it's still, like, if you were to ask me to order the seasons, I think it's 4, 3, 2, 1. Honestly, it's just been linearly better.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm looking at episodes from season 5, just like that, just titles and things to get excited about. We're gonna get a new character, a new Enterprise member next season. We are gonna get a couple of really great 2-parters, continuing some plot lines that we already know and love. And there's a big chunk of this that I haven't really heard of. I think the back third. And then Iborg, which is another Borg episode. And the second to last episode, The Inner Light, considered by many to be the best episode of TNG.
Okay. I'm excited.
I think I've seen The Inner Light. That might be one of the ones where someone was like, you gotta watch this one, dude. It's like if you never watched TNG.
Yeah, that's the one where Picard does the flute.
Yep. Right now, it's the one where Picard does the flute. And in 3 months, we're gonna be like, the one where Picard does the flute! Just through tears.
can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either. So we will be back. Let's see. This is releasing in January. So is that April?
Yes, it'll be the first week of April.
Yes, but assuming scheduling works out. We're going to try to come back in 3 months and talk about TNG Season 5. If you have... Let's take it to the plug zone. Yeah?
Let's do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. John, where can people find you online?
You can find me on another podcast called Super Smash Echoes that I do with my friend Justin, where we play video games related to the Super Smash Brothers franchise. Super Smash Echoes. What about you?
Scanlinemedia.com. I'm on a couple of podcasts over there. The Creature Quorum, where my friend Six and I talk about creatures like Pokemon and monsters from Monster Hunter. We rate them on their looks, vibes, etc. It's kind of a fun little comedy show. We also have Oops More Anime, where we watch an episode of Gundam every week from the new series, The Witch from Mercury. And on amaboston.org, you can find me on Talking Marketing, which comes out every 2 months. And I talk with marketing CEOs, mostly CMOs, about their craft and why they do what they do. So that's that. I can take us to the chat plug zone.
Please do.
If you have questions, comments, concerns about TrekChatz, Star Trek in general, or chats in general, we are at chatspod@gmail.com. Our Twitter is at chatspod, while Twitter still exists. That handle is being used elsewhere in case we ever have to move places. We have a subreddit, which is our chatspod, CHATCPOD. That's our community-run subreddit. If you like the show, rate us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so people know we exist, because we're pretty cool, I think. I hope. God, I hope. And patreon.com/chatspod is where you can give us a little bit of your coin if you want to support us, keep the lights on, help us buy equipment as we try to do really cool things in the new year. If you support us at $1, $3, or $5 a month, you get all sorts of fun bonus content like movie commentaries that people vote on, pilots that people vote on, and conversations that people don't vote on, except sometimes I guess they could. Yeah, and then if you have the $5 tier or above, you get thanked at the end of every main feed episode. So as of today, our $5 tier includes Arthur, Jen, Justin, Kat, Lee, Magellan's mom, Marcus, Michael, Nick and Pat of the Brothers at Infinite War, Six, and Stefan. All things chats can be found at chatspod.com. And if you like our main feed podcast art, it's done by Camilla Strater. She is at Camilla Strator on social media. Magellan, one more section before we end here, before we take it to the close of TrekChatz. What is your chatsim for this week? What's your recommendation for the folks to trek out?
Over the holidays, I was home in our hometown, and we had a lovely annual cookie decorating experience. And afterwards, we played some games. And so I have 2 chatsims for you from that gaming experience. First, we were at the table, and we played a board game. 2, actually. One of them is called Mr. Face, and it's a cute little thing. It's kind of like a Jackbox game in a real box, where you're kind of using these physical pieces to make a face, and based on a card prompt, and everybody else is trying to trick people into picking their card instead. It's kind of like if Balderdash was interpreting a facial expression made of little plastic bits. So it's cute. It's a small thing, very easily transportable, Mr. Face. And then we played Charty Party, and this is now the 3rd time that I've seen a group of people absolutely fall in love with Charty Party. Essentially, Charty Party is apples to apples, Cards Against Humanity, those millions of games like that, but where the cards are the X and Y axes of graphs. And so you're trying to pick a card that creates a relationship between 2 concepts that's funny, given the shape of the graph. And I really like it. I don't like Cards Against Humanity all that much, because it feels like the whole thing of it is I got the dick card and now I'm putting cum on the table, and isn't that funny? And so I like this one because it takes a little more, it prompts you to be a little more creative because of the like conceptual nature of it. There's still cards that are like the amount of cum in your dick or whatever. It increases as you get older. It's like You can still be done with it, but it's fun.
Your mom might listen to this.
That's fine. Whatever. Everybody was playing the raunchy cards with my mom at the table. So,
yeah, that's fair. To make her say bad words. It's true.
Yeah. I did that on purpose. Yeah. And then we played the new Jackbox. I guess I had 3 things. We played the new Jackbox Party Pack 9, I think they're on now. And it was good. They had a new Fibbage. Fibbage is a fun one.
Fantastic game.
And they have this other game in there that's like you are the characters in like a Big Brother style reality show. That was actually pretty fun. That we didn't play, but I played with my family the day before. So Party Pack 9, not a bad one. If you like Jackbox, it's more of that. So check it out. What about you?
I love it. That was such a fun night. Shouts to
was.
your family also. They're just fun. Get people to play games with.
It was a fun one.
My roommate and I started the year with a new movie to put on the Letterboxd. It's a new documentary that just came out on December 30th, technically. It's called This Place Rules. Are you familiar with this at all?
No. What is that?
So it's on HBO Max, and it's from Andrew Callahan from Channel 5, which is a YouTube channel that I have chats on before.
Yeah.
So Channel 5, if you guys don't know, they Andrew Callahan's an interviewer. He's a young guy, got out of college, got an RV. Him and his friends go around the country and go to different conventions, protests, things like that, and just put a microphone in front of interesting people. That's been the format of Channel 5 since before it was that, back when they were owned by Adult Swim. They continue to do great content over there. I highly recommend the YouTube channel. And they just put out this movie, This Place Rules, which is a collection of a bunch of Channel 5 stuff and new footage stitched together with a narrative from Andrew, like sitting in a director's chair, showing how America got from the 2020 election to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. It is stark. It is a little scary. And when I say like how America got there, I mean like the types of people that like voted for Trump and how that divided us and why that divided us up to, of course, the attack on the Capitol was going to happen. If you were paying attention, it seemed inevitable. And the frustration of that and like coming from different sides. What I appreciate about it is that Callahan and his crew have always been like really, really even-handed with like not judging the people they're interviewing. If anything, they're judging the systems that allow these people to be there. So like a big point in This Place Rules is like, if you think about it, the people that can go to protests can afford to go to protests and take time off of work and like stand there and yell for 3 hours. They are not the people who usually benefit from what's being protested. Also, the people who are profiting off of our political division continue to do so, even if we are red or blue or whatever. So they don't actually care who you vote for. 90% of the people who go to these protests that he talks to don't even fucking vote. It's sad all the way down. But he also manages to bring a lot of comedy to it. And it's not a depressing documentary. I mean, obviously, like the state of America is like a little depressing, yes. But it's sobering and it's very raw and human. And I laughed a lot at it. I thought it was very entertaining and enjoyable. And I think you should check it out if that sounds at all interesting to you. And I think it's going to be taught in schools in a couple of years for sure, because it's like so crystal clear how we got there. It's called This Place Rules, and it's on HBO Max.
Wow. All right. Check it out.
It's super short, too. It's like an hour 20. So that's what we got, folks. Thank you, Magellan, as always, for joining me on the Starship TrekChatz, where we keep on watching Star Trek until there's no more left to watch. And we'll be back in 3 months. So until then, engage.